This is a fine opportunity to go ahead and have this discussion today about my perspective on the topic of artistic expression. An in-depth discussion of our involvement within the acting community and the theater community, artistic expression, what it means to me. Because of my 40 years working and enjoying in the entertainment industry, my perspective of artistic expression, what it has come with, a lot of responsibility and judgment, discernment. This particular topic comes up over and over during my 40 years. And it's like all of a sudden something, it's like a reaction, I'm going to do something. And as I analyze my own experiences and other people and how they react, artist expression, there's many facets to it. For me, I've selected 2 facets that I'd like to share with you today. The first being access. Access to employment opportunities, deaf actors, hearing actors, equal access. Yes, we can envision that. My positive experiences with access in terms of employment. Well, yes, Sesame Street is a big part of my experience. Every one of us arrives in that place new, with new concepts about acting. We're new. The concept of how to reach out to a community, to children across the world. And I was selected after the auditioning and came together with the director and everyone involved, and the whole community working together as a team. They asked, can you lip read? I was like, well, lip reading. I remember, this is about in the 70s. I was thinking, okay, lip reading, Inside, my gut kind of had an uneasy feeling about that. There's 2 choices here. Lip reading and play like the Muppets. It's like, oh, making up things. Like, well, yeah. It's like Muppets can do that, and acting like that, mimicking that. But honestly, I wasn't comfortable with that. The other was American Sign Language. Communication, that was natural for me, using sign language. In that character, it was my judgment, my responsibility, and that came up. If they were to have selected me for lip reading, I would have done a poor job. But with sign language and being in that character, it was more honest. It was more appropriate. It was a reflection of my judgment, and I was selected for that. What a relief that I was honest with them. So they were very open, very diverse, very accepting, very creative. They wanted innovation. They wanted to collaborate, work together as a team. And it was the longevity. I was there for 32 years. So that, to me, is a very positive perspective of the access I experienced. And the frustrating experiences I had when I was, say, auditioning among other hearing actors, and they were selected for a role for which I was auditioning. About in the 70s, about during that same era, there was the deaf character that was a ballet dancer. That role came about, and I was very anxious. I wanted to audition for that role. So it's like, okay, there's a deaf character, I'm the person for that, and then I was looking like the talent to learn how to dance, even on toe, ballet. I thought, I'm your character for that. And the teacher was very much of a professional dancer and knew the ins and outs. So I hired that person to teach me how to dance. And so when it came time, I said I want to audition for that role because I had the requisite skills. And I was told no. I was like, no. I said, well, do you have other deaf actors auditioning? And no, but that wasn't the case. it was a hearing girl that was ended up for that role. And I thought, well, who might that be? And that was Amy Irving. And you know, she was well known, was a star. And at the time, that was before Steven Spielberg's wife. And she could voice. So when I write for Access and that employment, in time I had the autistic expression, but yet I was denied that. So historically that has always been a challenge for me, the equal access, even to this day. Now that happened in the 70s, and since that time, there's been a pool of deaf actors, which has continued to grow over those years, and the progression in our industry of deaf actors getting access has been small compared to the leaps and bounds of those that can hear within the entertainment industry. Just a very recent example in New York City, on Broadway, the play entitled The Miracle Worker. I had been selected for the role of Helen Keller, the hearing teacher. Abigail Grizzly, very well known, and had there's a lot of investment in her, and what I understood was the goal was to fundraise, and yet the access for me had been turned down. I mean, deaf children can act if they were not encouraged, and that access was denied. So even just recently, and then just a couple of months ago, that show ended up closing, and that was an example of the opportunity for deaf actors, and yet that was denied. So that has continued to happen throughout time. So the fighting chance to continue with, hearing actors getting the role, it just simply has not been fair. It really has offended me over time. So that being said, now, deaf counselors, advisors, coaching, helping with translation, that has been a pool, that has expanded those folks that help us deaf actors. So we should take advantage of my best resources, right? Because we have access, so we can get better access. For example, the TV show, Heroes, there was a suggestion, James Bradley, to have, let's go ahead and get this pool of resources and have a very creative way of seeing a deaf person to see music, even though they can't hear it, to see it in the fantasy world. I thought, hey, okay, that's a way of being resourceful. And again, this pool of counselors helped the producer and director come up with other ideas, and they ended up eliminating what was actually going to be fair and things that could have been innovative because of costs of having an interpreter and auditioning. And so even though the counselors were saying, well, we have all these other resources, it ended up not being fair. Here's an example. Advisors. For example, I was called to show the house, to go advise, and so I showed up, and I was approached, and I said, okay, can you lip read? And I said, no, I don't, but I can, sometimes I explain the kind of information about what that's about, lip reading, what it involves. And so the idea came to mind, 2 weeks later, I did some research on the internet. It could have been better if I had actually used the advisors from the very beginning to develop ideas, to incorporate into the story, and to have a better defense and have that work together with this whole team. So that's the first example, another example of access and authenticity. So we have a deaf person, feeling very rooted to their deaf character. They have a deaf advisor brought to this resource and providing, information about ASL, language access right, culture, and that being the way for a deaf person, family, their relatives, growing up at the school for the deaf, and bringing in all this resourceful information. After they graduate, they go out to the world, become a member of the deaf community, and in the actual character, it develops the character to a real life human being. It gives them the soul of that character, showing that they've had all these life experiences. So it's like the meat, the nuances, and the authenticity, which is actually the most important element as a part of that. Because then we have a hearing actor comes in. We have the same deaf actor coming in. Then there's this hearing actor. It's like the shell of a deaf person. And then the hearing actors inside of that, there's still something missing. It's not authentic. It's like, okay, the hearing person is trying to simulate the notion of being a deaf person, say with maybe earplugs, but yet there's still something missing. There's the nuances in the facial expression are missing. It's just, it's like a stick figure. They're going about their job, but yet it's not fully authentic. There's something blocking, and how do we prevent that? So again, you've got that team of advisors, the production, they can make the production successful. This is a real example I want to share. A TV movie, Love is Never Silent. The first producer said, okay, we've got all these things we've got a role of deaf parents in the story, we've got well-known people like Paul Newman, Joanne Warren, Woodward, and one of the producers will have Juliana filled. And I thought, okay, let's have her. And we've got all these skilled actors, and the producer's saying, yeah, brilliant, good. I believe in authenticity. Let's have this deaf actors. And so, sure enough, they picked these two actors, both deaf, Ed Water Street and Phyllis Froelich. I thought, okay, that helped to have that role that I had of being an influence as an advisor for that production. So the end results of having the deaf actress is like, yes, they're able to provide the authenticity and the artistic expression, and that helped influence the general public. It's like, wow, opening their minds. It's like, actually, there's a deaf person. And that has rippling effects, all for the positive. I need to emphasize that the purpose of telling these stories about the theater and all the ins and outs and what goes out of it, so that when we look at the American teams that create these productions in various pockets of the world, is to look for the authenticity of the character, to make that story even more real, more interesting. Is there access a factor to consider? Is there authenticity? And are they working hand in hand with the end result? So a more rewarding experience for everybody. And that's what needs to be convinced the people that, having the deaf character and the deaf actor be who they are. That's the only way. I mean, the hearing actors, they have a background, they can put that in there, you can put the shell of a deaf person. But there's always going to be that missing piece. The hollowness is going to remain there. I mean, how can that be filled? Only with having the authenticity of the deaf. Can they really, hold that bar or that standard of what a deaf person could provide? So, there's the line, a fine line of how to push that. So first, developing a community, a collective spirit, collaborating together. Activism is another key element to make that happen. Taking action and influencing change, getting people to think differently outside the box, and improving access in itself to the public. For general actors, like having the unions, convincing the industry, it's like, okay, it's in time to be fully inclusive, convincing them because we have to join them and help them so that we can have the same advantages. A third element that's really important is to tell our story, our own story, that is. So in summary, I would like to get the actor Patrick, who won the award. You worked for Howie Seago in Star Trek. Yes, known by that symbol. So I'm going to take that story to share. When you deal with actors, you really, in that role, you have to really be handicapped. There's a lot of tension inside being that role, and the energy that he carried with him always. Never letting that dissipate. And then when he was the hearing actor, the hearing actor will take on that line, acting as a handicap. The tension is gone, and then there's always that break, that gap that happens over and over. There's never the full authenticity happening. So the actor working with him became very aware, very sensitized to the nervous tension going on. So that's what actually makes a performance great.